Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Oh, wow. I love those glasses. Wow, that's amazing.
Thank
Hello.
you.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, just to get started, I'm going to do a quick little intro.
Okay.
And So, on Juneteenth weekend of this year, the Campaign for Southern Equality launched a special Black Lives Matter grant round for Black LGBTQ Southerners doing righteous work in their communities. The grantee list included groups that do birth work and doula services, media, arts, and filmmaking for Black trans people, a high school diploma program for LGBTQ youth and sex workers, both trans feminine and trans masculine support groups, rural drop-in centers, and the list goes on. We are excited to continue to lift up the great work that these people and organizations are doing by talking with grantees and sharing these conversations with you. So, I would like to welcome Takeallah Rivera. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, I just want to say that you work with Make Lemonade Doula and Coaching Services. And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so Make Lemonade is my personal baby. It's a doula practice slash self-care coaching slash diversity consulting little business that I operate, kind of drawing from all of my experiences in the nonprofit sector and just kind of made my own thing for multiple reasons. But yeah, I provide full spectrum doula support, self care coaching, individual consulting. If you're kind of stuck in your career path and need some guidance on where to go, I provide the service to nonprofits so they can be more diverse in their practices, particularly their hiring practices and their retention practices. Um, Sex education, just a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. So, all of these services, they encompass reproductive justice.
Mhm.
And could you tell us a little bit about what reproductive justice is?
Yeah, reproductive justice is basically ensuring that everyone has the right to give birth the way they want to and if they want to, as well as I guess having all of their needs met once they give birth. So, like for example, there's really no justice if you're giving birth to a child, but then you don't have access to adequate housing, you don't have access to adequate food, you don't have access to adequate education. So reproductive justice is kind of like intersecting all of the things when it comes to pain. Sorry about that. Also, it it encompasses the right to not only have your children, particularly for Black people, but to see those children to adulthood. So a lot of people don't really consider freedom from police brutality to be a part of reproductive justice, but it absolutely 100% is.
How would you say that police brutality is a part of reproductive justice services?
From personal experiences, Black people in particular, birthing is already has a pretty traumatic history for us. So you go through all the motions of bringing a child into this world, and you work 3 and 4 jobs to make sure that this child has the best of everything. And then when they're 15, they get shot walking home from the grocery store, or they get shot in the middle of the street unarmed. And it's like, okay, I've done everything that I'm supposed to do as a parent. I've worked hard. I've cultivated this child to be everything that I want them to be, and their lives are taken unjustly because of white supremacy.
So, thank you for
Mm-hmm.
talking on this. And I was wondering, could you tell us what led you to pursue this path?
Whew. Well, getting to the deep questions here. The hard stuff. I need a fan. So I was raised primarily by my grandmother, and I remember I was about 10 years old, and my grandmother had 8 children, and I remember like walking into her room, and she was in a bad mood because one of her children had done something that he should not have been doing as an adult. And I was like, well, are you okay? And she's like, sit down, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. And she sat me down for like 3 or 4 hours just talking to me about just everything under the sun as it pertains to parenting, parenthood. And I heard her say, if I had the choice, I would not have had any of these children.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I asked her, you know, me being millennial me, having access to most things, I'm like, well, why didn't you just use birth control? And she's like, I was too poor to afford it. And I'm thinking, geez, my mom gets it for free. Like, and just kind of listening to her and her friends' stories about basically being forced to have all these children that they didn't want to have, and not having access to adequate reproductive health care, it kind of lit a fire underneath me to kind of explore this topic a little bit more when I got like 16, 17. And then I had the experience of my own when I was 18. So for my 18th birthday, I wanted a breast reduction and I wanted my tubes tied. So I was like, okay, I'm 18 now. I can make decisions for myself. So I made my little appointments and marched into the doctor's office. And I got hit with, no, I'm not going to do a tubal for you because you're going to meet a nice man one day. And I'm like, well, I've met plenty of nice men. That doesn't mean I want to reproduce with them.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh. I can't believe that.
And even, so I had my son. I started trying to get a tubal ligation when I was 18. I gave birth to my son when I was 24. And at 25, I tried to have a tubal ligation again. Well, you only have one. You're going to meet a nice man. It's like, well, the nice man that I did meet, he wasn't so nice. So now I have this kid alone and I don't want another one. So can I get this done or not? No, just give yourself some time. You're young. And even recently at 30, went to a consultation. Well, you wait till you're 35, 36. So yeah, those are my motivating factors behind being 100% in support of reproductive justice and promoting it, because I felt throughout my life I've never been able to reproduce the way I want to, and I've never been able to make decisions for my body.
That's so infuriating. Absolutely.
Very, very. Still pretty salty about that last consultation because it was only a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, all right, fine. I had one doctor tell me, well, you can go to Canada or Mexico and get it done.
I shouldn't have to leave my city to do this. Exactly. Or my town. Like, are you kidding me?
Like, do you have Canada or Mexico money? Are you gonna take care of my kid while I go and have the surgery and recover? And yeah, so it's a mess, but that's why I'm here.
It's absolutely a mess. So I was wondering, So you lived in Seattle for a bit, and then you moved back to Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, did how long have you been doing doula services as well as like coaching and other types of supportive services? And why did you choose Memphis to like set
Um,
up your business?
well, I was born and raised here, but when I turned 18, me being the Sagittarius that I am, I wanted to
Oh,
explore and move to all these different places. So I lived in Knoxville for a year, and then I lived in Tampa for about a year and a half, and then I moved to the Seattle area. And Seattle area, I think I stayed there for a total of like 8 years, 8, 9 years, pre and post child. But I actually, when I found out I was pregnant, my relationship with his father was ending. It was not a healthy relationship at all, and it needed to end. So I came back home to the comforts of my mom and grandma to, give birth and kind of figure out this parenthood thing and then go back on my own. But when I came back from Seattle, it was definitely culture shock, even though I was born and raised here. When I got home, shed my little tears to my mom and grandma, and I was like, okay, it's time to get down to business. So I ended up having to get on Medicaid, um, and I could not find a provider for about 4 months. And I was like, well, I really want a midwife. And I found out that the South has basically made midwifery impossible. I found a midwife, but she lived about 60 miles away and she could not take any insurance. Whereas in Seattle, if you're on Medicaid, everything's covered. So if I would have given birth in Seattle, I would have been able to give birth in a hospital, in a birthing center, at home, with a midwife, with an OB. Here, I had to give birth at a hospital. That was my only option. And I researched, and the cesarean section rates for nearly every hospital here is about 42%. Yeah. So
and it's so
it's
dangerous.
very dangerous. And so I was not thrilled. Not thrilled at all, terrified for most of my pregnancy. And I had an okay birth experience, but it was just not the experience that I wanted. And again, kind of tying back to reproductive justice, it's like I, as well as others, should have been able to give birth where I wanted to, under the circumstances that I wanted to, but that didn't happen.
Hmm. Well, thank you for trying to help out the South in such an important branch of equity and
Mm-hmm.
equality. I just want to double check and just like tell the audience some of the work that you do. And so you do birth and postpartum doula services,
Mm-hmm.
radical doula services, consulting services, self-care coaching services. And I'm wondering, how many people are you working with? Like, how many people work in your business?
Me,
Just you.
just me.
It's absolutely incredible. I
Thank
can't
you.
believe it.
I work better alone.
Okay. That's what's up. It's good to know your strengths. So I was wondering, could you explain a little bit more what radical doula services, what that entails?
Yeah, radical doula services, for me, are anything that isn't birth. Um, More specifically, things that people, for whatever reason, don't acknowledge as a normal part of the reproductive health spectrum. And the first thing that comes to mind is abortion. And once I had my son, I started exploring different paths of doula work. And I got burned out on the birth aspect very quickly. So I still provide the birth service, but I'm more invested in the postpartum services, the abortion services, because again, it goes back to the whole thing of, oh, you gave birth, bye.
Mm.
And that's just it. No acknowledgement of what the parent and baby needs after birth, no acknowledgement of what if this person does not want to carry this pregnancy to term? So for me, radical doula services are everything outside of birth. So anyone that experiences stillbirth, anyone that wants to have an abortion, even down to IUD insertion. And that was new for me because when I got an IUD a few years ago, in Seattle, they had doulas on staff for IUD insertions, which was great because IUD insertions aren't the most comfortable, and it's a pretty difficult decision to make to insert a foreign object into your body. But she was there. She held my hand. She cracked jokes. She even fed me snacks as the process was going along. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is what is needed in this sector. Kindness, nurturing, just all around, just rock star care.
And you're bringing that here.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's difficult, but I'm trying. And also, side note, my doula had just broken her leg. So she was on one of those little scooters and she was still helping me. So it's like, I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah, that's a real heroine move. That's awesome. So, I'm also wondering, with you just working as an army of one, how many clients do you usually have, like, on an average month versus what you have like during this era?
Thanks to who I like to call Miss Rona, COVID-19, I typically serve in an official capacity about 3 to 5 a month. Prior to that, it was about 10. But I also really consider smaller things that people ask me as doula services. Like, since all of this has started, I've had a lot of people hit me up trying to access emergency services. So helping them navigate Department of Human Services, getting them applications for things, even helping them fill out applications. I consider that as doula work also, because a lot of times people really don't know. They don't know how to navigate these things. They don't know how to ask for help for one reason or another. So I don't really keep a good count of people that I help because it's just second nature for me. Like, I had a friend recently, she was telling me that a friend of hers suffered from a house fire and lost everything. And I was like, okay, we're going to get a fundraiser together. We're going to get her some essentials until she can get everything else figured out. So I help someone at least once a day. But on paper, official doula clients, 3 to 5 a month.
That's all amazing. And I think just doing this interview alone is a doula service, because there's so many people who don't even know the first starting point with reproductive justice, and then what doulas do. Could you give me just a small education between a doula and a midwife?
Yeah. So a doula, we provide no medical interventions. We don't check blood pressure, none of that. We're strictly for emotional support. Midwives, they're actually delivering the baby, performing whatever procedure that you need to have done, clinical things. So doulas are not clinical at all. That is completely out of our scope of practice. We're there for the emotional aspect.
Okay, cool. And could you tell me, like, how long have you been training in the doula services?
I started when I was about 6 months pregnant. Just reading books on my mom's couch. When I was pregnant, I was homeless for the most part because the relationship ended with my son's father. So I ended up having to come home and kind of bounce between my mom's couch and my grandma's couch until she passed. But I had a laptop and I had a library card and an internet connection, so I made it work. And I just started taking free little online classes, emailing people, asking them questions. And I actually only recently decided to become certified only because of an agency called Birth Advocacy Trainings that's completely inclusive of Black Lives Matter and supporting LGBT folks. But prior to that, I absolutely refused to certify because I felt, one, why am I paying $800 to $1,000 for you to regurgitate information from Black and Indigenous midwives that you kicked out of their practices? Like, I'm not going to disrespect my ancestors that way. And for two, it was most of the doula organizations that offered certification at that point were very Eurocentric, very heterosexual, and that's not me. And those aren't the populations that I primarily want to serve. So I feel like certifying at that point would have been an injustice. But now I am officially certifying through Birth Advocacy.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, sure. And I remember you were speaking of this service, and they offer scholarships as well for people who would
Yes.
like to be certified, which I think is
Yes.
amazing, especially since they are trying to be inclusive and just try to
Mm-hmm.
bring everybody up at the same time.
Yeah.
So thank you
Great.
for telling
Yeah.
me about that. Could you say the name of them one more time?
It's Birth Advocacy Doula Trainings. It's a mouthful.
Okay, cool.
And
And
the
we're
doula
running a
charge is
little
to be
low
away.
on time, unfortunately. What did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying that the person in charge is Sabia Wade, and they are awesome. And this person is I just, even during the live classes, I'm like, just kind of in awe of all the knowledge that they have. But yeah, you can look them up, Sabia Wade on Instagram and Birth Advocacy Doula Trainings on Instagram also.
Very, very cool. Um, we're running a little low on time,
Okay.
unfortunately. I could keep going on, but uh, I just wanted to get just a quick little bookend. Could you tell us why you chose Make Lemonade as the name of your business?
Well, prior to that, it was called Burning Bra. It was called Burning Bra Doula Services. However, in 2016, when I was at a very low point in my life, very depressed, Beyonce dropped Lemonade. And it changed my world. It changed my outlook on things, and just the imagery of the videos and the lyrics. It's like I think I stayed up until midnight when she dropped the album, and then watching the visuals, I'm just like, it's my life story in like an hour. Oh my God. And just seeing I guess the Easter eggs of everything that she put in, like putting in the parents of Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin in the video. So that's what inspired me to rename and rebrand as Make Lemonade, because as Black people, particularly as Black people who have chosen to give birth, the set of cards that we get dealt is pretty intense. And we literally get a big bowl of lemons, and you're like, okay, what are you gonna do with them? Are you just gonna sit here and look at them? Are you gonna make the best out of it? Like, what are you gonna do? So at that point, I was like, I got a bunch of lemons right now, not doing good. And that album just kind of pushed me to squeeze those suckers and make lemonade out of them. And I've been doing that ever since. And it definitely gave me strength in the time where I could not even get out of bed most days. So that's why I renamed and rebranded as Make Lemonade. And now there's like lemons all over my house and my life. There's a bunch of lemons in my office.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank Beyonce.
Beyonce. I could go on another 20 minutes about lemonade
Yeah.
and how that changed my life. But I won't geek out right now, but I fully support this.
Yes.
Before I forget, is there any way that the people who are watching, they can support you?
Heck yes. So you can check out the website. You can follow me on Instagram on my Make Lemonade and on my personal page. Personal page is Homegrown or Chata. I'll put it in the chat box. And also donations. I do things in a very, I guess, radical way. So with doula services, I offer sliding scale, and for folks that have more privilege, I urge them to pay on the higher end of that. So it can kind of balance out for folks who can pay very little or nothing at all. And also donations just help with the day-to-day operations. So printing out informational packets for clients, gas to go see clients that want to be seen right now with masks, of course. And just supporting me, like supporting my coffee while I'm sitting there waiting for a baby to be born or waiting for a client to come out of post-op from having an abortion. And all of my pay links are on the website and on the Instagram.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for talking to me
Thank
today.
you for having me.
Absolutely. This was a complete and utter delight and very illuminating, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and thank you for doing all that you do.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Bye
Goodbye.
all.